A 9-year-old black boy, full of entrepreneurial spirit, proudly sold lemonade on a hot summer day, his carefully saved earnings destined for a new bike. A racist cop, embodying petty tyranny, shut down his stand, confiscated his hard-earned money, and shattered his dreams. He saw an easy target, a lesson to be taught. He never imagined the boy's tearful story, amplified by social media and a determined mother, would reach the mayor, igniting a citywide outrage that forced the officer to publicly apologize and repay the boy from his own pocket. Welcome, everyone. Today's story is about a small injustice that sparked a big uproar, a tale of youthful dreams encountering adult prejudice and how a community and its leadership responded. It's a reminder that no act of meanness is too small to matter, especially when it targets a child. If stories of community standing up for the little guy and demanding accountability resonate with you, please subscribe and join our conversation. Your support helps us share these important narratives. Thank you for being here as we explore this heartwarming and ultimately empowering lemonade standoff. 9-year-old Marcus "Marky" Bell was an entrepreneur in the making. On this sweltering July afternoon in the city of Oak Haven, with the sun beating down mercilessly and the cicadas buzzing a relentless summer rhythm, Marky had set up his first real business venture, Marky's Marvelous Lemonade Stand. His folding card table, adorned with a brightly colored hand-drawn sign, was strategically positioned on the sidewalk in front of his family's modest but well-kept home in a quiet, tree-lined residential neighborhood. He had a pitcher of freshly squeezed lemonade, made from his grandmother's secret recipe, extra lemon, a hint of mint, a stack of mismatched plastic cups, and a small tin cash box where his earnings, currently a proud $7.25 from a handful of friendly neighbors, were carefully stashed. Marky wasn't just selling lemonade, he was selling a dream. Every quarter, every dollar was a step closer to the gleaming red BMX bike he'd been eyeing for months. In the window of a local shop, a bike that represented freedom, adventure, and the sweet taste of self-earned success. Marky was a good kid, known in his neighborhood for his infectious grin, his boundless energy, and his always polite manners. He was a small-for-his-age black boy with bright, intelligent eyes that sparkled with curiosity and ambition. His mother, Ms. Tanisha Bell, a hard-working nurse at Oak Haven General, had instilled in him a strong work ethic and a belief that he could achieve anything he set his mind to. She had helped him set up the stand that morning, her heart swelling with pride at his initiative and his careful counting of his initial investment for lemons and sugar. She was at work now, on a long hospital shift, trusting in the safety of their familiar street and the kindness of their neighbors to watch over her son's fledgling enterprise. The hidden power in this seemingly small-scale drama was not a single influential individual, but a trifecta of forces: the undeniable innocence and entrepreneurial spirit of a child, the fierce, unwavering advocacy of a mother, and the amplifying power of social media to transform a local incident of petty tyranny into a citywide cause célèbre, and ultimately the conscience of a city mayor who understood that true leadership sometimes meant addressing the smallest injustices with the greatest seriousness. Patrolling this quiet residential street on this hot afternoon was Officer Frank Garris. Garris was a man whose best days on the Oak Haven Police Department were long behind him, if they had ever truly existed. He was a walking embodiment of disgruntled authority, a cop who had soured on the job, soured on the community he was supposed to serve, and seemed to derive his only satisfaction from asserting his power in the most petty and mean-spirited ways imaginable. He had a reputation among his colleagues for being lazy, prone to complaints, and possessing a particularly nasty streak when it came to what he considered nuisances or disrespect. He often targeted what he deemed disorderly activities, his definition heavily shaded by his own ingrained racial and class prejudices. A young black boy operating a sidewalk lemonade stand, in Garris's jaded and biased view, wasn't a charming display of youthful enterprise. It was an unregulated nuisance, an eyesore, and potentially an opportunity to throw his weight around. Officer Garris's patrol car cruised slowly down Markey's street, his eyes like a hawk spotting a field mouse, immediately locking onto the colorful lemonade stand. He pulled his cruiser to an abrupt halt directly in front of Markey's small operation, the suddenness of his arrival startling the young boy, who had been carefully arranging his cups. Garris didn't bother with a friendly greeting, didn't inquire about the lemonade. He emerged from his air-conditioned car, his face set in a grim, disapproving frown, his uniform seeming to radiate an oppressive heat that had nothing to do with the summer sun. He approached Markey, his shadow falling over the small table, instantly dimming the bright, hopeful atmosphere of the boy's first business venture. Markey looked up, his initial apprehension quickly turning to a knot of fear as he saw the officer's hostile expression. The dream of the red BMX bike suddenly felt very, very far away. Officer Frank Garris loomed over Markey Bell and his small lemonade stand like a thundercloud on a sunny day. His expression was one of profound disapproval, as if Markey's innocent enterprise were a personal affront. The 9-year-old, initially startled, now looked up at the uniformed officer with a mixture of apprehension and the ingrained politeness his mother had taught him. Good afternoon, officer," Markey managed, his voice a little shaky. Would you like to buy some lemonade? It's 50 cents a cup, my grandma's special recipe." He gestured towards his pitcher, trying to muster a hopeful smile. Garris ignored the offer, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the neatly arranged table, the hand-drawn sign, the small tin cash box. "What do you think you're doing here, son?" Garris's voice was gruff, accusatory. I'm selling lemonade, sir," Markey replied, his small chest puffing out just a little with pride. "I'm saving up for a new bike." "Selling lemonade, huh?" Garris snorted, a dismissive, contemptuous sound. "You got a permit for this operation?" Markey blinked, his brow furrowing in confusion. "A permit? For a lemonade stand? I didn't know I needed one, sir. My mom helped me set it up. It's just on the sidewalk in front of my house." "Ignorance of the law is no excuse, kid," Garris stated, his tone becoming harsher. "This is a public thoroughfare. You're operating an unlicensed business. You're obstructing pedestrian traffic. You're creating a potential health hazard with this stuff." He gestured disdainfully at the pitcher of lemonade. Markey's eyes widened, his initial pride now crumbling into dismay and a dawning fear. He looked at the sidewalk. It was wide, and his small table was tucked close to his family's hedge, leaving plenty of room for people to pass. He looked at his carefully prepared lemonade, made with fresh lemons and filtered water, just as his grandma had shown him. A health hazard? But officer," Markey stammered, his voice trembling, "all the other kids in the neighborhood have lemonade stands sometimes. Nobody ever said anything about a permit, and it's clean, I promise. My mom made sure." "I don't care what other kids do," Garris snapped, clearly enjoying the boy's distress. "I'm dealing with you right now, and you are in violation of city ordinances, Section 14, subsection B, regarding unregulated street vending. You familiar with that, son?" He was, of course, likely misrepresenting or grossly exaggerating the ordinance, if such a specific one even applied to a child's lemonade stand. But Markey, a 9-year-old, had no way of knowing that. All he knew was that this big, angry policeman was threatening him, scaring him, and calling his grandma's lemonade stuff. Tears welled in Markey's eyes despite his desperate efforts to hold them back. He thought of all the chores he'd done, the allowances he'd saved, the careful planning that had gone into this small venture. He thought of the red BMX bike, its gleaming frame, the promise of wind in his hair. It was all slipping away. "Please, officer," Marky pleaded, his voice now thick with unshed tears. "I didn't mean to break any rules. I can pack it up. I won't sell any more. Please, just don't take my money. I earned it." He instinctively put a protective hand over his small tin cash box, which held his precious $7.25. Garris's eyes, cold and predatory, fixed on the cash box. A cruel, almost gleeful smirk touched his lips. "Oh, the money," he said, his voice taking on a tone of mock sympathy. "Well, now that's evidence, isn't it? Proceeds from an illegal enterprise." He reached out his large, uniformed hand. "I'm going to have to confiscate that, son. For the city, of course. Rules are rules." "No, please," Marky cried, his hand tightening on the tin box. "That's mine. I've worked hard for it. It's for my bike." The tears finally spilled over, tracing hot paths down his dusty cheeks. Garris's smirk widened. He was enjoying this small act of power over a helpless child. Now, don't make this difficult," he said, his voice a low threat. He easily pried the cash box from Marky's small, desperate grip. He opened it, counted out the dollar bills and the handful of quarters with exaggerated care, then pocketed the money. $7.25, he announced, as if it were a significant bust. "Confiscated as per city regulations, and this lemonade is also a health code violation. I'm shutting this illegal operation down, permanently." With that, he reached out and, with a single, callous movement, tipped over Marky's pitcher of lemonade. The sweet, cold liquid gushed out onto the hot sidewalk, pooling for a moment before beginning to evaporate in the summer heat, taking with it Marky's hard work, his grandmother's recipe, and his fragile, 9-year-old dreams. He then crumpled Marky's hand-drawn sign, tossing it into a nearby trash can. Marky stood there, utterly devastated, tears streaming down his face, his small body trembling with a mixture of fear, outrage, and a profound, crushing sense of injustice. He watched as Officer Garris, his face a mask of smug satisfaction, sauntered back to his patrol car, got in, and drove away, leaving behind a heartbroken little boy, a puddle of wasted lemonade, and a dream shattered into a million pieces. The officer likely thought that was the end of it, a minor, insignificant assertion of his authority, a quick and easy way to alleviate his afternoon boredom. He had no idea that this act of petty cruelty, this theft of a child's hope, was about to ignite a firestorm that would reach the highest levels of Oakhaven city government. He had underestimated the power of a mother's love, the speed of social media, and the simple, undeniable wrongness of making a 9-year-old cry over a lemonade stand. Marky Bell stood amidst the wreckage of his entrepreneurial dream, the sticky sweetness of spilled lemonade a cruel mockery on the hot sidewalk. His small shoulders shook with silent, heartbroken sobs. The crumpled sign, his carefully lettered Marky's Marvelous Lemonade, peeked out from the trash can like a discarded hope. The $7.25, every penny earned through smiles and polite service, was gone, confiscated by a man who was supposed to be a protector, a helper. The red BMX bike felt impossibly distant now, a dream as shattered as his pitcher. He didn't know how long he stood there, tears blurring his vision, a profound sense of unfairness washing over him. Eventually, Mrs. Rodriguez, his kind, elderly neighbor from across the street, who had bought the very first cup of lemonade that morning, came over. She had witnessed the latter part of Officer Garris's cruel display from her window, her heart aching for the little boy. "Marky, honey, what happened?" she asked, her voice gentle, her eyes filled with concern as she knelt beside him, placing a comforting arm around his trembling shoulders. Through hiccuping sobs, Marky recounted the story: the policeman, the permit, the confiscated money, the spilled lemonade. Mrs. Rodriguez listened, her initial concern morphing into a quiet, simmering anger. She knew Officer Garris by reputation. He was a neighborhood bully with a badge. To target a sweet, harmless child like Marky, to crush his spirit over a lemonade stand, was beyond contemptible. "That man had no right, Marky," she said, her voice firm. "No right at all. This isn't over, little one. We're going to tell your mama when she gets home, and we're going to do something about this." She helped him gather his overturned table and cups, her presence a small beacon of comfort in his devastation. When Tanisha Bell returned home late that evening, exhausted from her long shift at the hospital, she found a subdued, teary-eyed Marky and an indignant Mrs. Rodriguez waiting for her. As Marky, with Mrs. Rodriguez's gentle encouragement, recounted the afternoon's events, Tanisha's exhaustion was replaced by a surge of fierce, protective maternal rage. Her son, her hard-working, kind-hearted boy, had been bullied, humiliated, and essentially robbed by a police officer, all for the crime of selling lemonade. The injustice of it, the sheer pettiness and cruelty, was infuriating. "He took your money, baby?" Tanisha asked, her voice dangerously quiet as she hugged Marky tightly. "He poured out your lemonade?" Marky nodded, fresh tears welling. That was it. Tanisha Bell was not a woman to be trifled with, especially when it came to her children. She was a nurse. She dealt with life and death, with bureaucracy, with difficult people every single day. She was not easily intimidated, and she knew with absolute certainty that what Officer Garris had done was not just wrong. It was an abuse of power that demanded accountability. Her first action after comforting Marky and assuring him that they would fight this was to take a photo of the spilled lemonade stain, still visible on the sidewalk, and the crumpled sign she retrieved from the trash. Then she sat down at her computer. She was an active member of several Oakhaven community Facebook groups and neighborhood forums. With a calm, controlled fury, she wrote a detailed post, recounting Marky's story in his own words, attaching the photos, and naming Officer Frank Garris and his badge number, which Mrs. Rodriguez had astutely noted down. She didn't use inflammatory language. The facts themselves were damning enough. She simply asked, "Is this the kind of community we want to live in? Is this how the Oakhaven Police Department serves and protects our children? My 9-year-old son was trying to earn money for a bike. He was bullied, his earnings were confiscated, and his spirit was crushed by an officer who clearly has no business wearing a badge. Justice for Marky, Jocker Oakhaven shame." The post exploded. Within minutes, comments began pouring in. Expressions of outrage, sympathy for Marky, condemnation of Officer Garris. Other parents shared stories of Garris's aggressive, unpleasant behavior. Neighbors who had witnessed the incident chimed in, corroborating Marky's account. The hashtag #OzJusticeForMarky started trending locally. The story was shared across multiple platforms, picked up by local bloggers and community activists. Marky's tear-streaked face, described by his mother, became the symbol of a community's frustration with an officer who had long been a neighborhood menace. By the next morning, Tanisha's post had been shared hundreds of times. Several local news outlets, alerted by the online furor, had contacted her for an interview. The Oakhaven Police Department's social media pages were inundated with angry comments demanding action against Officer Garris. The hidden power of social media, its ability to amplify a single voice and transform a personal grievance into a public cause, was on full display. Tanisha also filed a formal citizen complaint against Officer Garris with the OPD's Internal Affairs Division, meticulously detailing his actions, and including sworn statements from Mrs. Rodriguez and other neighbors. She CC'd the mayor's office and every member of the city council. She was not going to let this be swept under the rug. Officer Garris, when he arrived for his shift that morning, was likely blissfully unaware of the storm that had erupted overnight. He probably considered the lemonade stand incident a trivial, forgotten matter. He was about to receive a very rude awakening. The Oak Haven police chief, Michael Harrison, the same chief from Story 24 now facing another PR nightmare, had been briefed by his public information officer at dawn about the viral social media post and the incoming media inquiries. He was not pleased. An officer confiscating a child's lemonade money. It was a public relations disaster, a caricature of bad policing. The pressure was mounting not just from the online community, but from within City Hall. Mayor Eleanor Roosevelt, a fictional mayor for this story, sharing only a name with the historical figure, and dedicated to progressive governance, a woman known for her populist appeal and her fierce advocacy for children and community engagement, had seen Tanisha's post. She was, to put it mildly, appalled. This was exactly the kind of incident that eroded public trust, that made a mockery of her administration's efforts to build bridges between the community and the police. She immediately summoned Chief Harrison to her office for an urgent and reportedly very uncomfortable meeting. The relatively small act of Officer Garris's petty tyranny was rapidly escalating into a full-blown city crisis, and the demand for accountability was growing louder by the hour. The meeting between Mayor Eleanor Roosevelt and Police Chief Michael Harrison was, by all accounts, tense and to the point. Mayor Roosevelt, a former community organizer, with a keen understanding of public sentiment and a genuine compassion that had endeared her to Oak Haven's diverse electorate, was livid. She had built her political career on promises of a more just, responsive, and community-focused city government. Officer Frank Garris's actions against 9-year-old Marky Bell were a direct affront to everything she stood for. "Chief," Mayor Roosevelt began, her voice dangerously calm, "I've spent my morning reading about one of your officers terrorizing a 9-year-old boy and stealing his lemonade money. Explain to me how this aligns with our community policing initiatives. Explain to me how this doesn't make the entire Oak Haven Police Department look like a gang of playground bullies." She slid a printout of Tanisha Bell's viral Facebook post, complete with hundreds of angry comments, across her polished mahogany desk. Chief Harrison, a man already beleaguered by previous incidents and struggling to implement meaningful reform within a department resistant to change, looked deeply uncomfortable. "Mayor, I understand your anger. I share it. Officer Garris's alleged actions, if true, are indefensible and deeply embarrassing to this department. Internal Affairs has already opened an investigation based on Ms. Bell's formal complaint. We are taking this very seriously." "If true, Chief?" Mayor Roosevelt's eyebrows shot up. "There are multiple eyewitnesses. There's a heartbroken little boy who just wanted a new bicycle. There's a mother, a hard-working nurse at our city hospital, who is justifiably outraged. This isn't an allegation, Chief. It's a disgrace that has already gone viral and is making Oak Haven a national laughingstock, or worse, a symbol of petty racist tyranny. I want more than serious consideration. I want swift, decisive, and public action." The mayor's office was being inundated with calls and emails. Local news trucks were already camped outside City Hall and the police precinct. The Justice for Marky hashtag was no longer just local. It was being picked up by national media outlets, always hungry for a story that combined pathos, injustice, and a clear villain. This was a public relations inferno, and Mayor Roosevelt knew she had to act fast to contain it, not just for political reasons, but because at her core she was genuinely appalled by what had happened to Marky Bell. "What kind of officer?" the mayor continued, her voice rising with controlled indignation. "Sees a child's lemonade stand as a threat? What kind of man derives satisfaction from confiscating a little boy's hard-earned $7.25? This isn't just about a permit, Chief, and you know it. This has all the hallmarks of biased policing, of an officer abusing his authority to intimidate and demean a member of our community, a child, no less." Chief Harrison sighed, the weight of his department's failings clear on his face. "Mayor, Officer Garris has a history, a pattern of citizen complaints, mostly for rudeness, aggressive posture, nothing that has previously risen to this level of public outcry. We've had him in remedial training, sensitivity workshops." "Clearly, they didn't take," Mayor Roosevelt interjected sharply. "This isn't a training issue anymore, Chief. This is a fitness for duty issue. I want Officer Garris placed on administrative leave, effective immediately, pending the outcome of your investigation. And I want that investigation concluded within 48 hours. No foot-dragging, no protecting your own. I want the unvarnished truth." She paused, her gaze unwavering. "Furthermore, Chief, this situation requires more than just disciplinary action against one officer. It requires a gesture of restorative justice. That little boy's money needs to be returned. And that apology needs to come not just from the department, but from Officer Garris himself, in person. And he needs to understand, truly understand, the harm he has caused." Chief Harrison looked stunned. "Mayor, forcing an officer to personally apologize, to repay money. The union will understand that Officer Garris has single-handedly created a public relations catastrophe that threatens the credibility of every good officer in this department," Mayor Roosevelt countered. "They will understand that this is the bare minimum required to begin to repair the damage. And if they don't, Chief, then perhaps you need to remind them who signs their budget." Her implication was clear. The pressure was immense. Chief Harrison knew he had little choice. He also knew deep down that the mayor was right. This wasn't just about managing a crisis, it was about doing the right thing, however belatedly. The internal affairs investigation, now under the direct and impatient scrutiny of both the chief and the mayor, moved with unprecedented speed. Officer Garris was immediately placed on leave. His initial statement, full of bluster about upholding city ordinances and unruly juveniles, fell apart under even cursory questioning when confronted with the eyewitness accounts and the sheer unreasonableness of his actions. He had no credible explanation for confiscating a child's meager earnings or for destroying his property. His claims of Marky being disruptive were flatly contradicted by every other witness. His body cam, it was noted, had also coincidentally malfunctioned during the critical moments of the encounter, a pattern that IA was beginning to see with problematic officers. Within 36 hours, the IA report was on Chief Harrison's desk. It was damning. It concluded that Officer Garris had acted outside of departmental policy, abused his authority, exhibited conduct unbecoming an officer, and had likely violated several city ordinances himself in his handling of the confiscated funds, which were never properly vouchered or turned in. The recommendation was not just suspension, but termination. The climax of this particular drama, however, was not to be a quiet internal affair. Mayor Roosevelt was insistent on a public resolution, a clear demonstration that the city took this seriously. She, along with Chief Harrison, arranged to meet with Tanisha and Marky Bell at their home, and they had a guest with them, a very pale, very subdued, and now civilian-clothed Frank Garris. He had been given a choice by Chief Harrison: participate in this act of public contrition and offer a sincere apology and restitution, or face immediate termination with the city contesting his pension. It was a stark choice, but one Garris, seeing his career in ruins, reluctantly agreed to. The scene in the Bells' small living room was charged with emotion. Marky, clutching a new, slightly worn superhero comic book, a small gift from the mayor's personal staff, sat close to his mother, his eyes wary as he looked at the man who had shattered his lemonade dream. Mayor Roosevelt spoke first, her voice filled with genuine warmth and apology. She expressed her profound regret for what Marky had endured, praised Tanisha for her courage in speaking out, and assured them that Officer Garris's actions were not representative of the values of Oakhaven or its police department. Then it was Frank Garris's turn. Prodded by a stern look from Chief Harrison, he fumbled in his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Marky," he began, his voice low and shaky, barely audible. I am very sorry for what I did the other day. It was wrong. There was no excuse for it. I overreacted. I let my bad mood get the better of me." He paused, struggling for words. "I shouldn't have taken your money. I shouldn't have knocked over your lemonade. It was mean, and I was wrong." He held out the envelope. "This is your $7.25, and this is a little extra from my own money to help you get that bike you were saving for." The envelope contained not just the original amount, but a $100 bill. Marky looked at his mother, who gave him a small, encouraging nod. He slowly took the envelope. "Thank you," he whispered. "And Marky," Garris continued, clearly coached, "I also want to apologize for scaring you. That was not my intention. I hope you can forgive me." Whether the apology was entirely sincere or merely an act of self-preservation was debatable. But for Marky and for the watching city, as a single pool camera, agreed upon by all parties, recorded the exchange for later broadcast, it was a powerful moment. A police officer, stripped of his authority, was apologizing to a 9-year-old boy he had wronged and making restitution. Mayor Roosevelt then announced that following the IA investigation, Frank Garris's employment with the Oakhaven Police Department had been terminated. She also announced the launch of a new city initiative, inspired by Marky, called Oakhaven Young Entrepreneurs, which would provide small grants and mentorship for children wanting to start their own small businesses, like lemonade stands, with simplified, youth-friendly guidelines instead of punitive enforcement. The city, she declared, would celebrate, not criminalize, the spirit of enterprise in its youngest citizens. The stolen dreams of one little boy had, in a strange and unexpected way, paved the path for the dreams of many others. The public apology and restitution by Frank Garris, broadcast on the evening news and shared widely across social media, marked a significant turning point in the Justice for Marky saga. While some cynical viewers questioned the sincerity of Garris's coerced contrition, the visual of a disgraced police officer personally repaying a 9-year-old boy whose meager earnings he had confiscated was undeniably powerful. It was a tangible act of accountability, a rare public humbling of an authority figure who had so clearly abused his power. Frank Garris's termination from the Oakhaven Police Department was swift and final. The IA report, combined with the overwhelming public outrage and the mayor's unwavering insistence on decisive action, left him with no recourse. His police union, while making initial noises about due process, quickly distanced themselves once the full scope of his misconduct and the disastrous public relations fallout became clear. Garris, stripped of his badge, his pension benefits severely curtailed, and his reputation in tatters, became a pariah in Oakhaven. He reportedly left town shortly thereafter, a bitter, diminished man, his career in law enforcement irrevocably over. For Marky Bell, the experience was transformative, though the emotional scars of being bullied and robbed by a police officer would take time to heal. The return of his $7.25 and the additional $100 from Garris was a concrete victory. True to his entrepreneurial spirit, he meticulously saved it, along with donations that had poured in from sympathetic community members and a surprise gift from a local bicycle shop owner who had been moved by his story. Within a few weeks, Marky was the proud owner of a gleaming red BMX bike, a symbol not just of a personal dream achieved, but of a community that had rallied around him. He even reopened his lemonade stand, this time with a brand new professionally printed sign donated by a local print shop, and a small official-looking City of Oak Haven young entrepreneur permit than one personally presented to him by Mayor Roosevelt. His first day back in business was a roaring success, with neighbors, city officials, and even a few off-duty police officers, pointedly not from Garris's old cohort, lining up to buy his marvelous lemonade and offer words of encouragement. Tanisha Bell, Marky's mother, became an accidental but effective community advocate. Her courage in speaking out, her articulate defense of her son, and her refusal to be intimidated had inspired many. She was invited to serve on the city's new Police Community Relations Task Force, working alongside Chief Harrison and other community leaders to help implement the reforms Mayor Roosevelt had promised. She used her voice to advocate for better training for officers, for more positive engagement with youth, and for greater transparency and accountability within the OPD. The Oak Haven Young Entrepreneurs Initiative, launched by Mayor Roosevelt in the wake of the incident, flourished. It provided small seed grants, workshops on basic business skills, and mentorship from local business owners to dozens of children across the city, fostering a new generation of innovators and dreamers. Lemonade stands, bake sales, and craft markets run by kids became a celebrated and supported part of Oak Haven's summer landscape, a direct and positive legacy of Marky's ordeal. The Oak Haven Police Department, under Chief Harrison's now more focused leadership and the watchful eye of the mayor and the community, began a slow but discernible process of change. The Garris incident served as a harsh internal object lesson. Officers were retrained, policies were reviewed, and there was a new, albeit sometimes grudging, awareness that abuses of power, even seemingly minor ones, would no longer be tolerated or easily swept under the rug. The power of a viral video, a united community, and decisive political leadership had proven to be a formidable check on misconduct. Marky Bell never forgot Officer Garris or the day his lemonade stand was so cruelly shut down. But what he remembered more vividly was the outpouring of support, the kindness of strangers, the sight of a powerful adult apologizing to him, and the thrill of finally buying his red BMX bike with money he had earned and that his community had helped him reclaim. He learned a hard lesson about injustice and prejudice, but he also learned an even more powerful one about resilience, the strength of community, and the sweet, satisfying taste of justice served. One glass of marvelous lemonade at a time, his small stolen dream had, in the end, helped to water the seeds of much larger positive changes in his city. The story of Marky Bell's lemonade stand and Officer Frank Garris's petty tyranny is a poignant reminder that abuse of power can manifest in ways both large and small.